Hey, everybody. Welcome to the Jim Masters Show. It's so great to have you here watching our entertainment, lifestyle, variety talk show series to welcome one of the world's most sought after celebrity photographers, Timothy White, joining us here on the Jim Masters Show series. This is extraordinary. He really is one of the world's most sought after celebrity photographers for over 30 years. We're going to share some of his work of the many people he has captured with his extraordinary eye. He has captured the intimate and playful sides of legendary actors, as well as the innocence of up-and-comers. He has shot photography for some of the most recognizable movie posters of our time, the covers of countless high-profile publications and imagery for an extraordinary and expansive roster of musicians as well. Named one of the most important people in photography by American Photo, Timothy has been the recipient of many photography and film awards over the years, including the LUCIE Award for International Photographer of the Year. His photographs are exhibited in galleries and museums worldwide. And as a partner in the Morrison Hotel Gallery, Timothy regularly curates and produces events in New York and Los Angeles. So look out for those folks when he does have the events. Timothy contributes to numerous nonprofit organizations as well, and we love that about him. You know, I'm big about charity and nonprofit and helping others and paying it forward. He does it both as an activist for their cause and donating his time and work. Most recently, he has supported AMFAR, Stewart House, and City Harvest, shot campaigns for the Joyful Heart Foundation, Operation Smile, and Recycle across America. Timothy White's published works include Timothy White, Portraits, published by Rizzoli, with forwarded by Harrison Ford; Indian Larry, published by Merrill, with forwards by Matthew Barney, Paul Cox, and Billy Lane; Hollywood Pinups, published by HarperCollins, with forwards by Susan Sarandon, and many others. Also, too, Match Prints, a photography collaboration with legendary rock and roll photographer Jim Marshall, with forwards by Anthony DeCurtis, published by HarperCollins. That is just the short list, folks. He's extraordinary. As I mentioned, he is in demand. He's always very busy, and his work is extraordinary. And we have the honor and pleasure of not only chatting with him here on our Entertainment Lifestyle Variety Talk Show series, but also he has graciously shared with us exclusively well over 50 plus photos we're going to take a look at. They are truly works of art, and you're going to thoroughly enjoy it. Again, feel free to comment during the show and let us know where you're watching from, all across the country and all across the globe. But do join me in welcoming our very special guest, Timothy White, to the Jim Masters Show here for the very first time, coming to us from his home studio. Timothy, welcome to the Jim Masters Show. It's so great to have you with us.
Hi, Jim. Thank you for having me.
Oh, a real pleasure. You know, you and I were chatting before we went on the air. I love the setting of where you are. That is the home studio, right?
Actually, no, this is my garage, which I've turned into an office at the beginning of COVID. So, yeah, you can see I've got some motorcycles in the back here and some cameras and stuff.
Oh, yeah, I was going to say, it looks fantastic. It looks, you know, authentic. It looks almost like you're on a set. How have you been? You know, you mentioned, you know, the pandemic, all this crazy stuff. Have things been consistently busy for you even during that time? Or was there a little bit of a slowdown, a little bit of a pause, and then things ramped up again? How have things been for you, Timothy? Welcome again to the show.
Thank you. Yeah, I mean, I think like with everyone, you know, COVID not just slowed us down, but kind of ground things to a halt initially. But you know, personally, in terms of the photography, you know, the interaction with subjects changed immediately, and so work sort of slowed down as people started to figure out how we were going to interact, given the pandemic, and there were certain rules and regulations that came about relative to interaction on the sets and how people would speak with each other and be close to each other and masked and all of that kind of thing. But that's somewhat gone by the wayside now, although there is some protection on certain movie sets and things like that. But my personal sets are a little bit different. And it was sort of hard, actually, because the interaction with my subject is so important, and you know, connecting with them in some intimate way requires a little bit of touch and proximity.
Exactly. Yeah.
So that's changed though a bit now. But on the gallery side, you know, I have these galleries in New York and LA and Maui and what we did was we sort of built an e-commerce platform during the time when the galleries were somewhat closed, and that sort of kept things going. Everyone was working from home. Everyone was looking at their surroundings and wanting to make it better and prettier. And so that sort of actually sort of ramped up our print sales and things of that nature. So it was pretty good. Personally, it was a whole nother thing, but that's professionally.
Personally, probably maybe took stock. A lot of us during the course of all of this, especially people that, well, everybody, but if you're in a people business, if you're in a business where you really enjoy the energy of others and then you feed off that and give it back tenfold, and just the art of conversation and just being around people, whether you're a performer, an artist, an on-air host, whatever it may be, and during that time, not really having that interaction. It's been interesting because a lot of people have been saying that they have paused and they've been reflecting on their lives, and they've been sort of revisiting things that they've done, but also looking forward and sort of mapping out next chapter. Have you done that? With the extraordinary background and acclaimed career that you've had, Timothy, was any of that time to stop, look at Timothy and what Timothy would like to do going forward with his life, with his career, and things of that nature during sort of that time of regrouping and reflection?
Yeah, without a doubt. As you said, I think most of us, if we had the opportunity, took that opportunity to refocus, reboot, if you will. I spent a lot of time at home by myself, and that was really great relative to my health. Got really involved in physical exercise and cooking for myself and all of that sort of thing. I'd say a little funny story. I get up really early in the morning and sort of do a morning routine. And I used to hike where I live in the canyons in California. I get up really early and I'd go for a hike, and I would start to pick flowers from people's yards and bring them back to my house because it was an opportunity.
Was that you?
I'm sure I'm on security cameras like all over Beverly Hills. But I got
Hopefully the neighbors aren't watching right now.
I'm sure they know.
And if they do, they should subscribe.
Always pitching it. I used to actually walk with, after a while, I started to walk with clippers in my back pocket, and I was walking to people's yards and click, and I'd come back with like a bouquet of flowers every day.
Wow.
It was really a lot of fun. But so, I kind of focused on myself. I took a lot of amazing pictures.
Did you photograph the flowers after you collected them? Were they part of your?
No, I would hike and bring my camera and
Yeah.
I mean, it was crazy. No one was around. There weren't airplanes.
No,
Especially
right.
at the beginning. It was kind of great in a way.
It was refreshing in a way, right? The highways were empty, and now they're nuts. It's like crazy. Everybody, for themselves. But
We're back for sure.
Back to the nuttiness. But yeah, I told people, when people were reaching out and they were talking about, getting really down in the dumps and really low about what was happening with the pandemic and all, I said, try this. If you can get out of the house and go to nature, go to the forest, go to a garden, plant a garden. I love doing that. I have a great green thumb. Yeah, you're right. And we're here along the ocean. So for me, the ocean is a go-to, swimming, surfing, boogie boarding, sailing it. I love being near it, barefoot. I have to, watch the tide come in and out and be a part of it. So go to the ocean, do these things, like you say, get out into nature. And because that is always there, and it's been there well before us, will be there well after us. And it has no concept of pandemics or any of the craziness that's going on in our world. And that can be very balancing and very settling when you go around things that are familiar, larger than yourself, and right there before you for the taking. So that was great to do. We did a lot of hiking too, and taking photos and just soaking up what's all around us, which I've always been cognizant of anyway. I've always been very visual, and, I like to feel a lot of things, and I soak up everything, music, color, sound, all of it. But really did it in an extra deep way during that time. And it does give you a pause to reflect on life and what you want to do going forward. And it also allows you to, if you weren't somebody which I wasn't, to create boundaries. I was not somebody who had boundaries. I was always, sure, yes, I'll be there in 5 minutes. Don't worry, you go home, I'll take care of it. And then realized between this pandemic and driving alone after a TV shoot we had, which I've mentioned to the audience, alone in Death Valley in August in a rental car after the television shoot without anybody on the planet knowing I was doing it. Those two things sort of allowed me, dealing with those two things allowed me personally to create some very good, healthy boundaries where I can't always say yes. I can't always jump constantly. If you have a fire, and I see the fire, I'll run right over with a bucket of water. But if I have flames right here, I got to put out, what's smoldering here first. And then I'll take the bucket of water and I'll come over to you and we'll put your fire out as well. So it's been great for, creating or maintaining some just boundaries so you can enjoy things further.
Yeah, I've had a lot of personal moments and understanding similarly, in my own life during the pandemic. And, it was refreshing. It was, as I said, it was sort of a restart in a lot of ways. I'd been working on a memoir. I got a lot of time to write. I started to write a lot, actually, something that was a different form of expression for me. It's usually so visual, and it gave me time alone and to really reflect and to and be a little bit more introspective.
What are some other things you learned about yourself during this time, that downtime? Were there certain things also you learned about yourself?
Yeah, certainly. You mentioned boundaries. It was a perfect word for me. It was something that definitely came up in my life. As a photographer, especially the nature of my specific approach, I'm sort of the host of a party every day. It's catered. There's music. I'm directing it. I'm in charge. I'm trying to get everyone to interact and react to me and to the camera.
I know how that is.
Yeah. So you're always on, and that's sort of a party. And then,
yeah,
so, having the galleries and having exhibitions, not only my own, but the photographers that I represent in the galleries, that became a big event. And it's always shaking hands and talking to everyone. And so to have that time to myself and being forced into it was actually really a good thing. And in some way, I guess I can use the word boundaries there as well, where I don't want to interact the same way. I kind of liked myself a bit more. I liked being home and alone a bit more. And I realized that after being forced into it. So big changes there.
Absolutely. Yeah. And positive changes, long lasting, life changing, positive, which just, adds to your growth, but also in a way, as you're maybe slightly less accessible, somehow you become more accessible because when the access to you is there, there's even more of you available, which is an unusual dichotomy, but that's exactly how it is. And I've noticed that even with me too. And I think it's a fascinating thing for you. We all have our life's journey. We all have things that have inspired us and pointed us in the direction of doing what we do now. We're blessed, you and I and others, to do work that speaks to who we are, that really connects with people, inspires them, entertains them, makes them think, but also celebrates. And you've done that for a long time and continue to do that so brilliantly. When did you first make that entree into the world of photography? Was this something that you always dreamed of as a child as well, as a kid?
No, I used to play around with camera. I think my interest in in the image came from the family snapshot. When I grew up, it wasn't like it is now, where you've got a collection of photographs on your phone that are easily deletable, or just you collect so much of it, we're overwhelmed with imagery that it just kind of just gets lost in your collection in your phone. But when I grew up, it was that box of black and white little snapshots that was sort of a family history, and it was in a shoebox and it was in the closet, and I got to look through them a lot, and there was something about those family photos that really worked for me. It was a sense of history. It was familial. It was composition. It was light. It was the nature of these little objects, these little different shaped photographs with decal edges, and some were rectangles and some were squares, or whatever, depending on the format of the camera or they were used or they were printed in. And I don't know, there was something about them as objects, as historical objects, that also had this sense of just interesting visual composition to it. I think that inspired me. So that was always there. And then I started to play in high school with it. And at the time, I'm in high school, it's the 70s. And so photography as an art form was really just coming into its own. It was finally it'd been going on actually since the beginning of the invention of the camera. But really in the 70s, there was this whole sort of fine art photography thing.
Mm-hmm.
That got my interest. And I started to play a little bit, but my interest really was in something else. Was more interested in landscape architecture, and that's what I ended up going to school for. But then,
Oh, yeah, I studied that too. I love landscape architecture. Yeah.
and then shifted and ended up at the Rhode Island School of Design and studying photography. And
Great place. Yeah.
and then from there, went to New York and opened up a studio and started doing whatever it took to make a living.
When you started, was it landscape photography that you were doing? Were you taking a lot of landscape photos?
I mean, look, again, I came out of art school, so I was always like on these weekend adventures to sort of, take pictures and find myself and create something personal. But no, in New York City, I was trying to hustle and build a career. I quickly realized that, I had rent to pay and I had things to do to try and build a name for myself and build a body of work that was recognizable. So no, I was shooting dog portraits and real estate and like whatever.
Yeah. Family portraits and
One
headshots.
led to another, and I started working with some people and some artists that were doing some things in South America. And so I started going back and forth to South America and taking all these great portraits of people there. And it was an amazing life experience. I was young, I was early 20s, and it was just starting for me. And here I was like in another continent and doing cool things, but it was more reportage. It was a different kind of approach to photography
Right.
than really seemed to work for me. I was more music. I was more, sex, drugs, rock and roll kind of thing. And I took that work on one of my, some of my time back in New York, and I showed it to Rolling Stone magazine, and they'd hired me like right away based on that work. And that sort of started things in a different way in my career in New York.
That is absolutely amazing, huh? So what was one of the first things they had you do at the magazine?
I think the first shoot was Elvis Costello, and I think the second shoot was Yoko Ono. It was Yoko Ono and Sean, and it's just interesting how life.
What a great way to begin.
Yeah, it was interesting how life began too, because I was the youngest of my siblings, and my older sisters I know were really involved in the British invasion and the Beatles coming in the early '60s to the United States, and so I was very present in the household with the record player going with the songs and all that. So the Beatles really meant a lot to me in some way. And then I've gotten an opportunity to shoot Julian Lennon, who's still a really good friend of mine after years, and we worked a lot together. But at that time, I got this opportunity to work with him, and there's Julian, and I did his album cover, and here's Yoko, Rolling Stone. And so all of a sudden my career started, but it started in a way that was sort of familiar to me, something that mattered in a different way because of the connection.
Right. The connection itself really made a big difference. That's amazing. So, as your career is taking off and you're involved with Rolling Stone magazine, then the name, of course, the word starts to, get filtered through the industry. What were some of the other things that started happening for you then as you were, taking wonderful photos of these incredible people that are already well known?
Yeah, I mean, it's about building a career and building a reputation, and so it started to go where I really felt comfortable, which was a bit more of an alternative lifestyle than where I was starting to go with my photography. Now I was going into music and entertainment end of the business, and that really just clicked for me. It worked, and so I started doing album covers and started doing magazine covers and things that were related to music, Guitar Magazine or whatever it was, as well as Rolling Stone. And then within a short period of time, I had a cover contract with Rolling Stone and was doing some really big things, and that was really important to me. It ramped up very, very quickly and started to develop a name for myself and the ability to handle certain work. And between working for the record companies and doing album covers and music-related publicity photos and such, and then the editorial work with Rolling Stone and other music magazines, it really took off for me and really felt right. It just felt like I found something that where I belong.
which is beautiful when you find it and it clicks and you're in that sweet spot. There's nothing better, because then you're all in, and the client, whoever it may be, is also recognizing that you are, it isn't okay, next. I'm not about that either. In anything I do, I'm not about, okay, who next? Okay, who's Timothy White? Okay, next. You are what? No, this has to be a feeling. There has to be something that we're all left with collectively. And when you're working with the clients, those that are sent your way or those that you seek out or all of the above, there is sort of like a connection that's made. There's this even sometimes not even spoken connection. And I think it's a beautiful thing. So let's talk about the process a little bit. What are some of the things that you like to look for when you are tasked with capturing the essence of somebody through the lens?
Something I said for many, many years. I'm more a psychologist than I am a photographer. My I'm
Absolutely.
less
Yeah.
interested in the technical end of it, although I'm very technical, and I need to utilize all of those tools to create the quality and the kind of imagery, and to have the control of creating that imagery that I need. But really, my stock in trade is my ability to communicate with people and to get them to be distracted and to react to me personally, and to be able to do that in an intimate setting in a short period of time. And that became my thing. And I realized and recognized very early on that I had that ability. And, that just really advanced my career quickly, because they could send me anywhere with anyone and I was going to come back with it. And it was never, ever going to be a negative situation. It was always, I always got the shot one way or the other. And it wasn't like an ego thing or even something I was trying to do. It was just, I'm tenacious. I have all of these things that made me go after something that I knew was really important to me to come back with. And I utilized my ability to connect with people to get that. I don't know if that answered the question, but
No, it does. I plug right into that. I fully get it, especially when and I was actually hoping you would bring up the psychology part of it, because a lot of it is psychology, and it's, the understanding of the human condition, and then the person that's there in front of you and their life story and what they're feeling and what they're going through, and who they are and where they've been and what their hopes and dreams are. And as opposed to just snapping, the photos and saying, okay, here's your photo. There's this relationship, there's this understanding, and the ability, and I say that because I'm a kindred spirit in that way with my work on television, radio, and everything, is this real desire to want to have that connection, the real desire to want to see through the screen or the microphone for me, the lens, the camera lens for you, the person beyond even what you're just seeing here, sort of like the heart and soul captured through what you do, which is, I think it really does take a certain understanding of people and the human condition overall, to be able to capture the essence of them, whether it's through photography or through conversation, to be able to maybe go that little bit deeper, not in an exaggerated way, but in a way that sort of brings them up, brings them out. I'm sure one of the first things that you do for them is make them feel at ease, comfortable. It's going to be a good experience. We're going to have a good time, breathe. I would imagine, that is something that's part of what you're doing as well. Because some may come in and they're all disheveled, or they're running around, or there's crazy things going on in their lives, and you have to capture them at certain moments, and probably have an uncanny understanding or some antenna that can allow you to feel the vibe of what their day is like as they're coming into the studio, or if you're going on location to greet them, to then know how to approach it and get what you need, which will please them and others in the long run, right?
Yeah, yeah, totally. I think that what I do is less about them and more about sort of me and how I kind of engage them in who I am and what the energy and the passion and the
I feel like I'm listening to myself. This is amazing.
well,
No, it's so true. Yeah, it's so
the same thing. I mean, you're conversing with people, and so am I. I mean, the camera is not between me and them. The camera
right.
doesn't exist when I'm with them. It's me and them. Now,
Mhm.
I use that opportunity to then take that tool and freeze a moment, but that moment is one that I create. That moment is one that I find. It is less about them than it is about me, and then and what I do is I step in front of the camera almost, and I so interact with my subjects um, that the camera is secondary. They're distracted. They're reacting to me, and in between that, I'll pop the camera out and then snap a shot when I feel
Right.
something, when I feel I've got them. And so I really believe in my pictures that some of the timeless nature of a lot of my imagery is about the subject reacting to me, not reacting to this image maker, this box that um, that is something they're focusing on. They're focusing on this interaction, this connection that I've created.
Which is the beauty of it all. I tell you, when you have the opportunity, because otherwise then it becomes the usual, okay, smile, lunge forward, tilt your head down, the usual stuff. But you're capturing them in the essence of who they are as they're reacting to you, which is quite
Yeah, there is no wall between us in a way.
right.
That's the way I see what I capture when I push that shutter. What I'm looking for is that moment between us, that I get something that is real. Again, in my head, what I think
Right.
is real,
Right.
'cause the whole thing is an illusion.
Yeah.
Uh, but, but
Shh,
what
don't
I'm
tell them that part. Right.
no, it's true. I tell them all the time.
It is right.
It's a total illusion. It's not
Yeah.
reality. It's a
Right.
fraction of a moment. And it's my reality. It's what I'm creating. It's the way I'm
Ooh.
seeing it. And a clear example of that is frame to frame. You know, the frame before they're smiling, the frame after they're frowning, the frame I pick has got a different reaction. I make that choice. It's an editorial decision. And as I build those editorial decisions into a body of work, it becomes what I'm about, what I create, the vision of who this photographer is and the way he goes out and takes those pictures. But I could have chose other frames that may have directed my career in a different way or directed people's response to me in a different way. So, it's a collaboration without a doubt. And at its best, it's a collaboration um, um, that is a beautiful interaction. But um, no matter what, it's something that I'm seeing and going after and trying to draw out of them.
What do you do if sometimes, the client knows that they need to get the work done as far as, the photography and the photos taken and all, but maybe that particular day is not a good day. Something happened in their life. The train came off the track. There's been something that's gone on. There's something they're dealing with in their life. So you can sort of deduce that they're here because they know they need to be, they want to be, but something is holding them back from expressing themselves, or something is just not right in their world. How do you work with that to be able to capture um, the essence of who they are when they're holding back, or their mind is elsewhere because of things happening in their life?
Without a doubt, that exists, and I don't know it, right? So I don't know who they are. I don't know what they're doing. I don't know that they just had a fight with their husband or their mother, or where they're going afterward. It's not about that. And so I come back to the same premise, which is it's about me distracting them. It's about me getting them to engage with me somehow. And I just do it naturally. It's just I go in and I'm like, hi, I'm here, and whatever that is. And it's not about the camera. It's about some interaction. And while I'm having that interaction with them, while I'm connecting with them, while I'm trying to get them to focus on this human being in front of them, I click a picture. I click a picture. Now, by the way, I'm not a photographer who carries a camera. That's not what I do. It's a very bigger. It's more like a director. It's a bigger setup. I've got many assistants. I'm tethered to a computer with my camera. It's a different kind of interaction. It's not a candid grab. I have composed an image. I have lit the situation. I have created this image that I want it to be, technically and compositionally, and then I throw my subject into it in a way and create. I usually say the way I say it is I make pictures. I don't take pictures, and so it's a very composed, contrived, lit situation. It's a scenario. It's a diorama. It's within the confines of that frame that I know is exactly what I want, and then I work with my subject within that context and get something from them um, that that makes it that special moment.
I would imagine too, which can be the beauty of some of this sometimes, because you're doing it in that way, that you will bring out things that maybe they've never shared before, or different things about them that maybe others in their life, maybe even others who took photos of them, never really captured, a different side of them, a different look, whatever it may be. And then they see the work and they're like, my God, wow, I didn't even realize I was expressing that, or I was showing you that, or I was reacting to you that way. And that could be something, a real blessing, huh?
Yeah, I mean, I'll repeat the same words, in that I'm distracting them. I'm
Right.
connecting with them as a human being. It's not about why we're there. Why we're there is for the two of us to interact with each other. The secondary part of it is capturing the image in their subconscious. They're not aware of what I'm doing in a way, and that is part of the process. They feed off my passion, my intensity. I'm there to do something that I'm excited about. Oh my God, this is like amazing. This is this great situation, and here, let me show you. And when I get it, when I get the thing that I'm looking for, that I think is exemplary or really special, I will show them the process, what I'm doing. I'll flip it to them really quickly, because I don't know what I'm doing. I may shoot, and frankly, that's a big word I use a lot. But I don't know what I'm doing. I feel it as the process goes on, but I'll show them something that I'm starting to see, and I'll quickly give them a vision of it, or give them a sense of the vision that I'm creating, and they'll get excited by it, and then they'll allow me to do more and more. But I thought that throughout the whole process, I'm talking to them. We could be talking about what they had for dinner, where they're going on vacation. We could be talking about my mother, my father, whatever. I can, I can talk about Harley Davidsons. I can talk about ballet. I know a little bit enough about everything to be able to
Right.
integrate in some way. And I've been in the entertainment business for so long, and in particular, Hollywood, which actually we didn't get to, but sort of took over from my music work, and I got much more involved in Hollywood. And as I work with these actors, I could talk about film. I could talk about the history of cinema, and I could talk about the process of what they're doing. I've been on so many sets, and so there's a familiarity that I'm so comfortable with, that makes them comfortable as well.
How did that transition happen, or how did you start moving into the direction of Hollywood? Did Was that something you wanted to do, or did, as they say, Hollywood come calling?
Well, at that time, you have to really kind of see the progression of media and such. So I'm the person who's a portraitist, who's capturing entertainment, and there was music and entertainment and Hollywood. But at that time, there was this big um, transition where rock and roll stars became celebrities, and
Mhm.
celebrities became sort of rock and roll. It all sort of came together, and all of a sudden, Tom Cruise was on the cover of Rolling Stone magazine, as well as Metallica or whoever. So it started to become a really different sort of world. And for those of us who were creating that imagery within the media world, um, it was another opportunity to shoot different subjects. It just sort of came natural. It was a natural transition for me. But all of a sudden, Hollywood was on magazine covers and used in a different way in advertising, and all of a sudden, celebrity was a way to promote your product. And then, of course, media kept changing, and now we're in a whole different place, and we can
Mhm.
talk about that and where that goes, and what
Oh, influencer, TikTok, and all of that.
scenes, right? And it used to be about that. So anyway, it started. Hollywood just sort of called in a way, and I got opportunity to shoot some actors, and then I was a young pup. I was a young kid in New York City trying to build a career, and at the time there were cheap flights to LA, and I started taking these flights and just going and knocking on doors. I had a lot of chutzpah, a lot of tenacity, and I would just knock on doors and say, "You're going to hire me eventually. You got to hire me now. This is what I'm doing." And one thing led to another, and I started getting that work. And one of the things that I was able to do, and I think really perpetuated my career, was I'm not, at least outwardly, I don't appear intimidated by anybody, and so I can walk into a situation and feel comfortable and make them comfortable, which is exactly what we've been talking about. Make them comfortable enough that even though inside I'm fluttering like butterflies are inside of me, of course, and excited by what I'm doing, but I was able to handle it, if you will. And so I started to get opportunities, and then magazines would send me to go shoot with a celebrity, and I'd connect with that celebrity. And once I connected with that celebrity, they were like, "Oh, this guy is cool. And this was easy. And I like the pictures." And you start to get hired again, not just by the magazine, but by the same subjects. I mean, I worked with the same subjects over and over and over again in my career. I mean, Harrison Ford was one of my earliest big Hollywood editorial shoots, and that led to a 30+ year friendship and working relationship. I've shot him 100 times, and the vacations together, and personal interactions, and play, and advertising and magazine covers, and just so I've the biggest archive of imagery of someone like that. And then my relationship with someone like that and the imagery that I created also made me appear a certain way to my clients and to the world that was looking at my pictures. They're going, "Well, who's this guy who's got that kind of access to that guy?" And that built, my career in so many ways. And I developed those relationships with many celebrities.
I would imagine too, you probably have, even in the back of your mind, those in the celebrity world and otherwise, where you would be like, "Gee, I would really love the opportunity to photograph that person," just because you admire them, you're a fan of their work, whatever it is. Have there always been in the back of your head this list of people who, and they don't necessarily have to be top celebrities, they could just be people who do amazing things, that you've always hoped or dreamed that you would have been tasked with photographing?
Not once. No, no.
Got about an hour, folks. Put the pot of coffee on. He's got a list.
No, that wasn't my motivation, But that's not to say that, I mean, enamored and inspired by the people that I worked with, and honored to be working with them. So, for me to work with the likes of Audrey Hepburn or Robert Mitchum, or people whose movies I watched as a kid for years, to then be able to be in their presence and to collaborate with them, and to have them allow me to direct them and to do and create what I'm doing, and to really collaborate together with the kind of respect. In my mind, I was still just a kid from New Jersey, and here I am, directing Al Pacino to do something with me, and he's totally cooperative and collaborative in that process. That's like pretty amazing. And that not only allowed me to focus and create really what I wanted to create, but it also allowed me to then keep building on that career-wise.
That's incredible, huh? That's really incredible. What's a typical day like for you, Timothy? I mean, is there a typical day? Do you have a structure? At 9, I need to do this. At 11, I do this. Or are you kind of like on call with, if the phone rings, you got to run, jump, and go? What is a typical day like for you?
No, I mean, first of all, now it's different than then, when I was at the height of my career and doing it. But even then, it wasn't. Again, I'm not a guy who grabs a camera and go. What I do is a lot more set up and planned. There's estimates. There's that need to be done with my agents and the client. There's a lot involved in it. You need to cater to the celebrities, and so it's the right studio, it's the right makeup, it's the right hair, it's the right styling, it's the right clothing, it's the right ideas, it's my assistants, it's rental equipment, it's a studio, or whatever it is. And so there's usually big budgets and a lot to plan before a shoot, and so it's never that spontaneous. Although I bring a spontaneity to the shoot itself, the build up to the picture is not a spontaneous thing whatsoever. There's, back in the day before digital, although it still applies to some degree, there's always editing and always that post-production work, or the thing that came from the last shoot as well as the pre-production for the next shoot. It's a business too. There's business involved, so I have all of those aspects as well. I owned a studio in New York, where I actually built a big rental studio, so I had that kind of side business going on while I was doing my own work. So my days are not structured in any normal way, but there's certainly a lot to do. And now my days are very different. I own galleries, and so I do the marketing and publicity and social media and things like that.
You're doing all of that yourself?
Personally, no, I have a team. But
you have a team, yeah.
As a
overseeing it, and right.
So my days are a little bit different now, and now of course all of us are on the computer and doing Zooms and telephone calls all day long and that kind of thing. But when I'm shooting, it's a different day. And by the way, when I shoot, it's like I shut down. It's total focus on the shoot.
Yeah.
I don't keep my phone with me. I just focus on what I'm doing.
I love how you say focus. That is exactly what you do.
Yeah.
I was going to say well, see, that's a great thing, that the fact that you do that, and you do that in that way, with that structure and that style of just knowing that would you say you're a perfectionist?
No, I wouldn't. I think I do what it takes to get to something that feels right for me. I work from my gut. I'm reactionary. I walk into situations not really knowing how it's going to turn out or how I'm going to do it, but I walk in with a confidence. I don't know where that came from, but a confidence that makes me believe I can wing it.
Jersey, maybe. East Coast.
Yeah, for sure. I think so.
Yeah.
And I think that, again, that's part of those strengths that allow me to walk into situations and be able to deal with people and be able to deal with the situation. People always say to me, who's the biggest asshole you've worked with or whatever. And it's like, that's not the dynamic that I have with people. That's not what it is. My situations they're never negative.
Right.
If I plan for a sunny day, there's a potential for it to rain. So I can't plan for that sunny day. What I plan for is my ability to adapt and to go after what I want to. And it's so much more fun. It's so much more creative. It's so much more, I don't know, it just being reactionary to whatever circumstances are in front of you give you a lot of power in a lot of ways. I'm confident that I'm going to come back with something that's going to please me.
And as far as that question, who's the biggest, whatchamacallit, it's amazing with that can be very surprising too, because, and I'm sure you've had it too. I've been in scenarios where I'm tasked with conversing with somebody on live television, live radio, whatever it is, network or whatever. And the crew or others are like, oh, well, their reputation. Oh, this person is the biggest, whatchamacallit. And then I get with them and I'm like, I don't see what they're seeing. This person is actually a sweetheart. This person is really nice. They just are going by an outer created branding shell, but they don't spend time with them. They don't go beyond that armor to look in and beyond. And I'll be left like, what? Actually, I didn't find that to be the case at all. We had a great conversation and we laughed, and and then sometimes on the flip side of that, there could be somebody that you've been looking forward to interact with, and they could go in the category of the biggest, which really surprises you because you just don't know. You know what I mean?
But again, we're just human beings, and
right.
You don't know anything about anybody's moment.
Who knows what's going on in the life?
So it's really just about that interaction between two people. And
do you think that if you didn't do this work, you would be a therapist? You would be in the world of psychology?
That's really funny. No, I don't think so. I don't know what I would do though. I mean, I certainly am highly unemployable. So I have no idea.
Probably, maybe it's some life coach or something. Probably I could see it. I myself probably, but we're kind of doing that already, like you say, through the work, which I think is such a it's a luxury. It's a beautiful thing. I want to show, and there's many folks, and you can go to timothywhite.com. He's got an extraordinary website, and there's a lot of different things. It's interactive and a lot of different sections, and can learn about his career and material, books, gallery, shopping. I mean, it's a lot of cool things there. But you've been generous enough to share with us here some fabulous images. And what we'll do is pull them up, and then maybe you can tell us about not only what we're seeing, but maybe what this was like with that person to be able to capture these extraordinary images, starting, of course, with the one and only Arnold Schwarzenegger. What a fantastic capture that is.
Yeah. Powerful guy. Very, very focused and dedicated, and I don't know. He walked in that day and was just owned the room. There were a ton of people around, and he was just saying hi to everybody. But when he got in front of my camera, he knows his image really well, and he put this on. And of course, I don't know how this looks on your screen, but the lighting is really, really beautiful in this image.
Yes.
It's a little dark from what I'm seeing on my screen, but that could just be my screen. But
Yeah.
there's a little pop of light in his eyes, and it's just this intense moment. This is a really popular image, by the way. I sell this a lot in galleries.
Yeah. So these are available for purchase as well.
Yeah.
Through the website and the galleries.
I'm representing like galleries around the world when I sell the work. Oh, this is an interesting.
Sir Paul McCartney. Yeah.
Paul, this was for a Rolling Stone cover, and I'd spent a week with Paul McCartney on the road, and it was a tour. I think this was 1989 or something, and it was like this world tour, and the concept was Paul McCartney on the road. And I spent a week with him in Chicago. We had a shows every day, and every day we went to the show, and every day I kept saying, "Look, the sort of the concept for this is Paul on the road." So even though I need lots of pictures on the inside, I have this idea for the cover of him literally like on the road, on the side of the road. And so they was like, "Yeah, okay, we'll get it on. You'll follow us to the venue every day from the hotel, and we'll pull over and get the shot. Is that what you want?" I was like, "Yeah, that's kind of the idea." And 5 days, every day, we waited outside. It was freezing. It was the winter. We waited in our car waiting for Paul to leave the hotel. He finally leaves. We get out in the car, and they're like, "We can't do it today." So we went to the venue, and I photographed them backstage, him and Linda, and I photographed the show and the sound checks and did everything. I got all the pictures that I would need for an inside story in Rolling Stone magazine, but I didn't get that cover that I wanted. And the last day, they were like, "Okay, we're heading to the airport. We'll do it there on the way to the airport." I was like, "Great." We follow them to the airport. We stop at a red light. The security guard jumps out of the car, runs back to my car, and says, "I'm sorry, we don't have time to do it." I'm like, I really needed to get this. This was my shot. The next day, I had to be in Boston to get another one.
Yeah.
They said, "No, but you can jump on we're going to Toronto. You can jump on the plane with us if you want." And I run back to the car. They had no assistance, no equipment.
Yeah. No, you just
like whatever. It's like,
yeah.
Okay. So I run back I get back in the car, and I get my assistants. I'm shoving film in my pockets and cords and like whatever I need. And we get to the private airport, and they're like, "Now we're going." And I leave my assistants. I say, "I'll see you in Boston in 2 days for our next shoot." And I jump on the plane with Paul and Linda, and the door closes, and I'm on this airplane with Paul and Linda. Again, come back to this Beatle thing, This was like my childhood stuff. And here I am on this plane with Paul and Linda. We spent the next couple hours on the way to Toronto. Eating dinner and me grabbing some pictures on the plane. Really unique moment for me. Really, really special. And I got to the hotel that night in Toronto, and I wanted to call like everybody from my high school. Like, "Oh my God, I was on the Paul McCartney." Like 2 in the morning. I took work. And anyway, the next morning they called me up and they go like, "You ready now?" And I went downstairs, and we got in the car, pulled up a ramp on the highway, and they said, "Where?" I said, "Pull over, just do it." I needed to get it done. He stepped out of the car. I just grabbed these shots of him on the side of the road. They said, "You got it?" I said, "Yeah." They took off. They left me there, and I found my way back to Boston to meet my crew. But I got the picture, and it was one of those. And no big deal with him on the side of the road, but it was kind of great, and it was on the cover, and it fulfilled the story.
How cool is that, huh? How cool is that? I mean, it's got to be incredibly satisfying. Here's another great one too.
Oh my God, yeah. I mean, this was the beginning of their career. Think about who's in this picture and what it means and where it went. This was West Coast hip hop. I got a call from Esquire magazine to go shoot NWA, and they had just broken. their album had just come out, and this was like they were willing to like do this for me, to actually like pose and travel with me, to do something. This is before they really had attitude and wouldn't do much.
Yeah.
But they got in a car with me. I drove out to Malibu. I thought, real easy to take them to Compton and do something urban with some graffitied wall, but that was just too obvious. And so I took them out to Malibu to the beach, and got out of our cars and walked down and grabbed the shot. This has become a really important picture. And when Straight Outta Compton came out, everybody wanted this image. And again, another big gallery seller. There's another picture of NWA. I don't know if I sent it to you or not, but it was the next shot, and I'd walked them to a beach and did some images on the beach, which again was a little out of character for who they were.
Yeah.
But it was a really popular picture.
Really cool. There
Yeah.
it is there.
So I was looking at that. I've got them sort of posed on this beach in Malibu, and I'm looking through my camera, and all of a sudden Dre's phone rings, and he picks up this phone and starts talking. So I'm waiting for a minute. I don't know why. Nowadays I wouldn't do that. I would just keep shooting because you never know what's going to happen.
Yeah.
But
Right.
I let him take his phone call. The other three guys didn't know he was on the phone. They were still looking at camera, thinking, I'm looking for them to pose to me. And out of the corner of my eye, I see this white surfer like walking through the frame, and grab the picture. And of course, this one became really, really important.
How cool, huh? What a fantastic capture. I mean, all of these are. Here's another one. Folks will recognize this face here, of course.
Another
James
beautiful
Gandolfini, yeah.
line. There's something about James Gandolfini that is so endearing to people. He as a human being and how people know him, but also the characters that he played had such humanity. And there's something about him that is really endearing to people. This was, I did the last advertising campaign, the last season for The Sopranos.
Yeah.
And my whole concept behind it, or in my head, my idea was that it was sort of the final family portrait. And so I had set all these backgrounds and ideas up and sets, and we were shooting outside too. But I also shot with an 8x10 camera, 8x10 view camera, which the negative, the actual capture is 8x10 inches, and it's slow. It's got the bellows. You throw the cloth over your head, that kind of thing, and the focus is really critical. It's very slow. Just quick click a picture. It's a process, and so I use that to do portraits of everyone individually. And this image was one of those, and shot with an 8x10 camera. And if you understand photography and the technique, you have to look at digital pictures and analog pictures, and then of course this is analog with a very high-end camera. It's got a different visual technology to it that you see.
Right.
This picture anyway is really unique and very popular.
Do you have a preference, analog versus digital? I know some do in the music world when listening to music, or, film versus digital. They love the warmth of, they want to see their movies in film. Some like digital. Do you have a personal preference, not as far as what the world's asking for, but that you like yourself?
Yeah, I mean, it's changed. It's all digital. Analog is a niche now. That's not to say people aren't using it, but it's a niche. It's all digital, and so much of what digital is can replicate, and then some, what analog offered. But yet, analog is still very different. There's a three-dimensionality to it, to the film and the way it looks, versus digital, which is a little flatter. So I mean, I can tell that difference. I'm not so sure anyone else can. But.
You can in music, definitely in music. I know, with folks I've talked to and folks being in the music industry, it's definitely, some of the way music is recorded is sometimes louder and flatter and compressed versus the warmth of putting on an album. So it's kind of interesting. Here's another cool shot.
Yeah, Jay-Z. This was before he had his first album out, actually. I was shooting another rap artist by the name of Jaz-O. In fact, I believe Jaz-O gave Jay-Z his moniker, and I think that Jay-Z was his sort of, Jaz-O was Jay-Z's mentor, and so he was helping him produce his new work, and Jay-Z literally had not come out with his first album yet. And while I was shooting Jaz-O, Jay-Z showed up on the set and was wearing this outfit, all this bling, and he was just so interesting that I just saw it. And so I threw him in and did some pictures of he and Jaz-O. And then and then said, I got to do some things, individually, if just you alone, and did all these pictures of him. And I mean, the story is I'd actually forgotten that I shot this, because in my database was about Jazzo. It was an album cover. And then many, many years later, as this man is a mogul, I go, I think I shot him.
Yeah.
And I went back into my files and found all these amazing photographs of him that I had taken. They just weren't, he wasn't individually in my database. In any case, I printed this up, and I put this in my gallery on a Friday. On Sunday morning, I got a phone call from my gallery director and said, Jay-Z just bought your photo in the gallery. And then my phone blew up all day.
Yeah.
From his company going, who, what, when, where. Like, we all forgot, about this. But yet it represents not just a piece of my legacy, but certainly his legacy, and him as the young man that has since become,
Mm-hmm.
biggest stars. And
Extraordinary. Right. Exactly. Here's another.
yeah,
That's a great shot.
That was in Iceland. We went up to Iceland in the winter to photograph her. And
Such a beautiful place, Iceland, isn't it?
oh my God, it was like the moon, though.
Yeah.
It's like 1 million people in Iceland, and majority of them live in Reykjavik, and so the rest of the country is like an outback. It's just there's not a lot going on except the beauty.
Yeah.
It was so cold, and we just went out and drove in this frozen wasteland, and they were all all so used to it. We weren't, but so she's in the skirt. We just get out of the car, and she kneels down in the snow, and
the wind is blowing, and yeah. That's what time of the year was this?
January.
She's a trooper. Yeah, January in Iceland.
Yeah, there's nothing to them.
Right, exactly. It's
in the Jersey winter, Yeah, here's another one of the same thing. I mean, this is where we were. We drove in the middle of. I mean, it was like the moon.
Wow.
I get around the side of the road. I'm standing on top of my van that we rented, and this bus goes by, and I just had her stand there.
And the bus kicked up like the snow, and that's a cool shot.
Oh yeah, it was just flying as they went by.
This shot, definitely, your eyes, it's like pulling you in. It's pulling you forward towards her, towards the bus, down the road. I feel a pull, a beautiful pull. It's like drawing me into the photo, just the way the sky is captured, and the sky sort of looks like it meets in the middle, angular wise. It's just everything is pointing you, come with us, follow us. We're going to take you somewhere. That's what I feel in looking at this. It's pulling me in.
And she took us somewhere. I mean, this was early,
right?
In her career, so she did take us to another place musically and creatively.
Exactly. Yeah, really cool shot there. I was having a lot of fun when we were looking at these and preparing for the show. The Bon Jovi, of course, John Bon Jovi.
Yeah, I mean, being a Jersey kid.
New Jersey, right?
This was their New Jersey album cover, and they were big that summer, and I had been asked to do the album cover, and so I was like, well, I got to do it on the Jersey Shore, and so I went down to Seaside Heights. There was an amusement pier, and I talked the people into letting me do it, and we showed up, and the word got out the night before that the shoot was going on. So and it went on the radio or something, and like 1,000 kids showed up.
Oh yeah,
screaming, and it was pretty insane. It was kind of a great shoot. But again, I'm at the beginning of my career in a way, and I'm doing this big stuff with people that I can really relate to. It's part of my own person.
Yeah, and they're entrusting in you to do what you do, and you're relying on them to be there and be present so you can do what you do. It's a yin and a yang, which is an extraordinary experience. And out of that comes all of this incredible, work and these fabulous captures. Here's another.
Yeah, I got to work with again, like I said earlier, you develop a relationship with your subjects, and you start to work repeatedly with them. This was another shoot in the fields, meadowlands of New Jersey.
Meadowlands, yeah.
I went to England with them, to Rolling Stone cover. We did many shoots together, multiple album covers and magazine covers and stuff. And this was just a moment in Jersey. What I love about things like pictures like that, I'm always telling people I don't need the biggest location. I don't you can take a picture anywhere. It's really about what the lens is seeing, what the light is, and really, just a really simple composition, just nothing really. In fact, it could have been in the middle of in between two suburban homes. You don't know, and really it's just him in high grass, really. But it's a simple, beautiful image that is
Yeah.
sort of time.
Iowa, it could be
Could be
Kentucky, it could be anywhere. Yeah.
outside of that frame could be something that is completely different than what you're imagining this to be.
Yes. Right.
In this case, it actually was this. It was just in the Meadowlands. It really could have been, and that's what I kind of pride myself on. I can kind of make a picture and compose a picture anywhere.
Could be an ocean, could be a factory, could be anything there. Bridge. Here's another.
Yeah, this was Guns N' Roses. So I got hired to shoot Guns N' Roses for Rolling Stone, and no one really knew who they were. It was their first piece in Rolling Stone, and then 6 months later, they blew up with their album Appetite for Destruction, and they became like one of the biggest bands. And so this was the second shoot. This was for their first Rolling Stone cover, and that was only 6 months after they had really broke with their first picture in Rolling Stone that I had also photographed. So this was in New Jersey, and again in Jersey, so it was my home turf, and I took them to Asbury Park to a biker bar that I knew down there, which is where they are here, and shot the Rolling Stone cover and inside pictures. And just this is a solo of Slash, obviously, just sitting on the pool table in the bar. This was insane. There was insanity going on. I can't even tell.
Really?
It's such a long story. Oh my God, yeah. Because I had taken them to this biker bar that I knew in Asbury Park, and the gunners were like not easy to corral and to get them going. And so we shot earlier up further north in New Jersey, and I did some cover stuff, and I took them down to Asbury Park. And by the time we got there, it was like 2, 3 in the morning, and I had told these the people at the bar that I was coming, and they were prepared for the whole thing, and so they stayed open. But by the time we got there, everybody was like drunk, and it was a biker bar. They were doing like burnouts in the bar, like it was like filled with like rubber smoke. The whole thing was insane. And I walked in with these 5 guys from LA who like had no patience whatsoever for any of this, and I was like, oh my God, what did I do? Like really hardcore bikers and like
you just brought 2 worlds together.
Absolutely. And it was really insane. And I just remember me, this little, skinny little young photographer standing on a chair going, people, trying to keep them together.
That's it. A people person, bringing the world together however you can. And that's the key. Here's another great shot.
Yeah. Outcast. Again, photographed them many times. This was in Atlanta, and I was hired by their record company, LaFace Cartel, and went down to do pictures. And they were there with the whole crew, and I don't know. I just again, I got to work with them a lot. Got some really great pictures. I think this is very early in their career, and it's pretty classic image.
It really is. Absolutely. Here's another.
Yeah, Big Boy from a different shoot a couple of years later in the studio, and just looking for a different way of composing and telling a story.
Right. Exactly. Really, really cool. It's a great shot.
Yeah, same thing. I think that was the same shoot actually. And while I'm working with them, you're always looking around, looking out of the corner of my eye, looking at my peripheral vision, something else that stands out.
I bet you do that all day long too, with various things when you see shadowing and the way the sun sets, or just what's going on. You when there's rainbows, I noticed all of that and I soak it all up. But you probably notice a lot of these things too. Like I tell people when we go into cities, I said, don't always look down at the sidewalk. Look up. Look at the top of these buildings. Look at the spheres. Look at the way the sun is bouncing off the glass and creating this copper color. Look at the size of the buildings that we built, man-made buildings, and appreciate it. When you're going over a bridge, I'm always the one in the car, usually the driver a lot of times, where I always want to, even if I've seen that view 1,000 times, I still want to see it because it changes.
Yeah, of course.
And I'll be in the car sometimes and everybody's just looking forward and just looking at the traffic. I'm like, wait, look, we're on a bridge going over a valley or a fast moving river or whatever. Look at this gift of the view that we've got here. That's, it's funny. And then they'll be like, Oh, that again, Jim?
Jim, I know we're live. I've just got a friend who's walking out. I'm just going to say goodbye, and I'll
Oh,
come back. 2
oh
seconds.
yeah, sure, absolutely, yes. Our viewers get a chance to see the chair again. You know how many celebrity chairs, guest chairs we have seen. We have I got to do an episode where you just see the guest chair. No, it's terrific. You don't know. We've created this collection of guests' chairs. Oftentimes the guest has to get up to get a glass of water, to plug in their iPhone because the battery's giving out. They want to go grab the Oscar, whatever it is, and you just see the empty chair. We've seen leather couches. We've seen chairs next to fireplaces. So I said, we really got to do an episode where it's the best of the guests' chairs. And can you guess which guest sat in that chair? So they're very excited. They got a chance to see your very.
Well, I'll show it to you again if you like. Just let me know.
He's got another chair.
He'll chairs too if you want.
All right. So look at this one. Yeah.
Yeah, Britney Spears. Yeah, again.
When was this one captured?
Maybe. Where?
When and where? Yeah.
When? 1990.
This is 90. Wow.
I'd have to look it up, but
yeah.
It's in Louisiana.
Early 90s. Yeah.
Louisiana on her family property. Went down and spent the day in this small town where she was from, Louisiana.
Yeah.
And I had this is like her father's pickup truck or something. And,
yeah, sure. Yeah. Use what's there, and that's cool. Real, the expression is interesting. I like her expression. There is, it looks like there's a confidence there in the expression.
These images are so timeless of
yes,
who have, they've passed on.
Yeah.
They've gotten less famous. They've gotten more famous. Less famous, by the way. I started a body of work called Fall from Grace.
Oh, really?
It's just a collection of sort of the ups and downs of celebrity and certain people, from Harvey Weinstein to Kevin Spacey to even Donald Trump.
Look at Aaron Carter recently. Yeah.
So that was an interesting collection to put together. I don't know what I'm going to do with it, but it was an interesting, kind of view on celebrity and how quickly the arc can shift, and
sometimes you have no control of it. It's shifting just because of society and tastes, and and
sometimes you're a one-hit wonder and it's a quick thing, but it's still impact at that point, and then you're lost and forgotten in a way, except for that moment. And then there's people like Britney who carry on and through their careers, of course, and have longevity.
A tweet can also make you very irrelevant quickly too. So watch when you tweet, folks. Think it, but don't always say it, whatever it is. It's a great shot.
Shania Twain. Yeah, this was in upstate New York. She had.
Was it really? Yeah, it looks like it could be the Arctic Circle. I mean, doesn't it? It's got that real sort of.
It was early morning, and it was a lake outside of her home. What area is this in New York State?
The Finger Lakes?
No, but
up towards Lake Placid, or
no, it wasn't there. It'll come to me in a second.
Yeah.
But, in any case, she had property up there, and we went out at the end of this dock, and I said, would you get in the water? And she said, yeah. And I said, I had this idea of like being naked in the water and whatever. And she said, okay. And she got into the water, and then she said, look, there's a lot of leeches here. So have somebody run into my barn. There's a bag of rock salt, and if you spread the rock salt around me, you'll keep the leeches off or something. I just remember that moment. That
leeches.
Like, okay, get the bag and let's do it. I got the water. This was like just after sunrise, so it was really early, and she just stayed in the water, and we sprinkled rock salt around her. And
see, gang, there's a lot. You go through a lot to capture these images for the viewers watching. Yeah, right. You do the behind the scenes of what it takes to create art in this way, art of all kinds. Here's another.
Yeah, so this was that first image of Guns N' Roses that I shot. Their first little small.
That's the first one.
Magazine, and no one except those who hung out in the clubs on the Sunset Strip really knew who they were at that point, but they were starting to get some recognition. And then, of course, that album broke and they got really big.
Yes.
6 months later, they were on the cover of Rolling Stone. But this was just a moment. And I knew about this liquor store. I passed it so many times, and it had sort of great neon and colorful light. And I didn't know what I was going to do with these guys, so I had them meet me on the corner.
Just had a real authentic, a little bit of a rawness to it, right? Exactly, an authentic feel. It's a cool
Santa
shot.
Monica Boulevard and Cahuenga, I think, or Wilcox. Yeah, Metallica. I was in.
Metallica.
Rolling Stone sent me to shoot Metallica, and they were in Shaker Heights, Ohio. Which,
Oh yeah.
if you know anything about that, I mean, it's like a suburban town for the most part, and I'm like, what am I going to do with these guys in this little town, you know? And I was running around all day trying to figure out how I was going to shoot them, because where they were staying was boring to me. It was just like suburban, you know, middle America. The truth is, Metallica just sitting anywhere on a front lawn or something in suburbia would have been hysterical. It would have been. At the time, I was looking for something else, and and I ran around. And I went into the police station and I said, "Hey, I'm this guy from Rolling Stone. I'm shooting this band in town. Like, can I come in?" I didn't think they'd let me. And they were like, "Sure, come on in.
Come on in."
So I brought them to jail. The guys loved it. And we did all these pictures. I had them, you know, do a whole mugshot thing. And
yeah,
we did it all. But
that's funny. That's cool. That's again, you know, on the fly, you had to come up with something, and you did, and it worked, and it was great. Here's another great shot here too. James Brown, incomparable James Brown.
Talk about legacies, mine and his. This was the moment when James Brown was in jail, and I was sent again by Rolling Stone to photograph him while he was in prison. And they allowed me to come in, and they brought him into a conference room, and we did some pictures. And then a few months later, he was released from prison. 6 months later. And Rolling Stone sent me again, and I went to pick him up from prison. And this is the day I went to pick him up, and I rented a limousine.
Really?
And this is what he walked out of prison in, this outfit. And we drove around, and this was Augusta, Georgia. And he took me around this old neighborhood, and these people didn't have running water in their homes and stuff. And we showed up in this limousine, and everybody came running out. They all knew him, you know, James. And this guy happened to be one of his early trumpet players from like the 40s or something when he first and he was like, "Oh man, how are you?" Blah blah blah, and came up on his porch, and I got all of these pictures of them together, hugging and talking and sitting around. And it's just a grab.
It's incredible. It's a great shot. We had another gentleman who was one of his trumpet players who's still in the ongoing James Brown band, Holly Farris, and Holly was performing in Georgia, and another legend trumpeter. And I think it was a situation where Holly was performing at a bar, and James walked in and heard him and said, "I want him." And all of a sudden they brought him in, and his career propelled, and now he's still with the incarnation of the James Brown band today, and they still tour around the world. Holly Farris, he was a guest on our show, and one of the nicest guys, and amazing stories about James Brown. But you picked him up from prison and then did a photo shoot. I mean, that's going the extra mile, literally.
That's interesting. I met his grandson a couple of years ago, and I was introduced to him, and we started talking. He was this really good-looking young kid, like 20 or something, and we started talking. And I was telling him he didn't know, and someone had told him that I'd photographed his grandfather, and so I started to tell him the story, and he was like so intrigued, and he really wanted to know all about it. And I had him come to my studio, and I pulled out all the pictures and showed him, and he was just so enthralled with the fact that I had captured this moment in his grandfather's life that really nobody had captured. And in fact, not just captured it, but I was there. I picked him up the day he got out of prison and took him around, and he took me around, really, and did pictures. It's interesting, that picture of James Brown, talk about, it looks like a grab shot, and I almost said that it is, but it's not. It's set up. I'm composed. I'm set up. I'm lit. I'm prepared for what is going in that frame. I don't know what my subject and I are going to do, but yet compositionally and technically, from a lighting standpoint, I know exactly what I'm doing, what I've got.
Oh yeah, and the colors just are fantastic. Just it's ideal. I mean, it's really, really a great shot. Here's another.
Same day.
That one.
There's the limousine on the right that I picked him up in prison with, and this is.
It's almost like he's saying, "I feel good." You can hear him almost saying that.
Yeah.
He was really a character. He really was
Oh
an
my gosh.
amazing artist.
Did you ever read I think it's James McBride's book called Kill 'Em and Leave, which is a
Yes.
biography on James Brown, which is amazing. Such a great book. Really
Yeah.
story.
He was a real entertainer's entertainer, that's for sure. Here's another great shot.
Yeah, the Queen of Soul.
Aretha Franklin. What a, when I saw this, I was like, this is absolutely gorgeous.
Again, I've worked with Aretha many times, and this was this was one where we had this whole big setup. I rented the Dodge Brothers home, which was like a historic home in Detroit, um, and brought this piano in and did something in the backyard and all this prep, to get her ready. And she comes out, she always had these outrageous outfits, and she comes out in this thing, and I just, oh my God. And
Mhm.
it gets in front of me, and I start taking pictures. And of course, her singing and her, I mean, think about it, again, this like kid from New Jersey, and I've got the great Aretha Franklin singing into me, in front of my camera. So amazing. But I'm taking her picture, and I noticed, like, I walk up to her and I was like, you have a tooth missing. She had a tooth missing in front. I was like, what? What's going on? She goes, don't you worry. You just go back to your camera. And she was chewing gum. And she played with the gum and like filled the hole in her camera. I mean, it doesn't mean anything
With
today.
the gum. Wow.
Today with computer, I can Photoshop. I can quickly put her tooth back and fix it.
Right.
But she was just like, don't worry about it. You just go back to your camera. And,
That's amazing.
yeah.
That is amazing. What a story.
That day, though.
What a story. That is cool. I love that. This one is really great. This just captures the essence of him, Ray Charles, just joyful and blessed, happy. What was the scenario here? That's just such a great shot of him.
Yeah. Again, this is something
I think it's one of the best shots I've ever seen of him.
Thank you. I repeat this because it really was something that was the beauty of my career, is that I developed relationships and got to work with the same people over and over again. And so I'd worked with Ray quite a few times, and my assistant and I at the time were really, really into music, and we always wanted something fresh, and he was really into recording new things and digging into cool music, obscure stuff. And so we'd always have fresh music every day on our set. And he found some Ray Charles. We're big fans of Ray, and he found some early recordings of Ray, and he put this song on, and it was something from early on in Ray's career, and he was just like, oh my God, that's so and so on the bass and so on the trombone, and he was just loving it that we had found this obscure piece of music. And this was kind of a genuine reaction to what we were talking about.
Yeah, pure bliss, pure joy, for sure. It's another great one.
Bruce Springsteen, that guitar been around since the beginning of his career. It's on the cover of Born to Run. I was photographing him for an album. It was 1991, and he went to go move the guitar, and I saw the back of the guitar was all carved out from his belt buckle from years of playing this on stage. It was like an inch or half inch of wood carved out of the back of the guitar from just rubbing against his belt buckle. And all of a sudden I got like the willies. I just realized the importance of that guitar and what I was dealing with here. Yes, it was Bruce, but that instrument was infamous and created some of the most amazing music. And to think of the hours that he performs on and on and on. And here I was, 20 years later, the same guitar, 20 years into his career, and the guitar, and there it was. And so I had to come in, I had to move in tight on the guitar. Again, very well-liked picture. I saw a lot of them to Bruce fans from my galleries.
Isn't it amazing? Yeah, when you get the feedback of the fans and those. So there he is again, Bruce Springsteen. Really great shot. Just capturing the essence of who he is and the love of what he does. That's a terrific shot. Here's another. Sophia Loren.
Yeah,
talk about segues.
Really perfect, Jim. Perfect. You talk about the level of celebrity and such. Here's Sophia Loren, and also like new talent versus older talent. And I guess what I'm trying to say is, someone like Sophia Loren, younger talent will come in with their publicist and say, okay, you got 15 minutes, you got an hour, or whatever it is with them. Where Sophia Loren, it was like, well, how long do I have? She comes by herself, shows up. I go, well, how long do I have you for? And it was like 8 in the morning. And she goes, I don't know, 4:30, kind of thing. So you get a whole day. So I rented a hotel room. And anyway, how many people get Sophia Loren naked and in bed, so.
That's very, very true. Absolutely. And a great shot. There's a sensuality and a softness to it. Absolutely. There's another fantastic one.
Same day.
That's the same day.
Again, this is like taking a hotel room, which was a boring hotel room, and trying to make something interesting out of it.
Mm-hmm.
It's all about composition. It's all about light. It doesn't matter where I am. It's about the interaction with your subject. It's about light. It's about lens and composition, and you can make something out of nothing.
Right. Exactly. Stunning capture.
Yeah.
Here's another.
Different day with her, different shoot. At the beach in Malibu, she's wearing this gown. She was just so wonderful. She was running in the water, ruining the gown. This is a rock. This was a rock that was literally in Malibu. That was literally maybe 10 feet offshore. So there was water crashing around it, and that kind of thing. Like she had to get wet to go and sit on this rock. It wasn't that far out. It was just offshore, but just a
doesn't
moment.
it? It looks like a capture from a movie, like the movie, like a still from a movie.
Well, again, I try and be as timeless as I can with my work. I think this certainly represents that, and I'm very much influenced cinematically, by the lighting of cinema and by how important that light is in creating a feeling.
Yeah, really fantastic. This is a cool one too.
This is really nothing in the studio. I just had some linoleum flooring, and I rolled
you just
had to and rolled it up in the back and kind of made a background out of it. And I put a paper towel roll insert over my lens to vignette it into this.
Yeah. It draws you right in, and it almost, if you look at it a certain way, it almost looks like it's moving, like the floor is moving a little bit, and that like the top of the part where it flips up is like coming at you. She's coming at you, and it's got a lot of movement to it, even though it's a still. It's got a lot of movement. I love the playoff of the color of her hair and her outfit and everything, and then the contrast of the black and white squares. The black and white squares, your eyes are drawn to the squares, but you're also obviously very drawn to her. And the two things, she is the central figure, but you also then look around her and you look at the squares and the shape and the color of it. And I think it's very, very cool to be able to capture that in the way that you did. And really, really nice. Here's another one.
Something out of nothing. This was for Esquire magazine. They had difficulty getting Paul to
Paul Newman,
agree to do the shoot, and finally he said, "Yeah, I'll do it." And I was in Los Angeles, and this was the next day in New York, and so I had to take a red eye to get back for it. And so he said, "Yeah, I'll do it. Have somebody send the truck up to Connecticut and to my house and pick up my motorcycle, and I'll meet you."
Westport, Connecticut,
And I'll meet you at 89th and 5th in Central Park at 2:00. I said, "Okay, great." I took a red eye. Arrive in New York. I send an assistant up to Connecticut. I show up at Central Park with my crew, and I turn to the assistant, and I'm like, "What? What is this motorcycle? No, that's not what I want." They said, "No, that's what they gave me to bring back."
Yeah.
Okay, so apparently, I don't know if you know this, but he's a race car driver.
Yes, he was big with racing Volvos. Yeah,
they used to use these little tiny like circus motorcycles to get around the pits,
right?
And for whatever reason, anyway, so I show up, and I'm also a motorcycle guy, so it was kind of fun. I'm into cars and stuff, so we had to talk about. And he's got this little tiny motorcycle, and I hung off the back of the pickup truck, and we rode around Central Park.
That's cool.
Taking these pictures as we're running through Central Park, and people are freaking out. Paul Newman on this little
thing. Paul Newman on a little tiny motorcycle.
And we did like a circle, and we came around Central Park, and we came back to 89th and 5th, where the rest of my crew was waiting. And he turned to me and goes, "You got it, kid?" And I said, "Yeah. I got it." And he took off down Fifth Avenue on this little motorcycle.
How cool is that, huh?
I'll see you later.
That is cool. That's just, oh,
Mm.
here's a great one. Yeah. You mentioned
Oh, yeah,
Audrey Hepburn. I mean,
yeah. It's funny. Like this year, I did a photo shoot with Dead Mouse, and on my ride home from the photo shoot, I'm going, wow, in my career,
mhm.
like I photographed Audrey Hepburn and Dead Mouse. That's
And
the
your mouse.
yeah.
Yes. Yeah, it's somebody who's versatile and a professional.
But again, I grew up watching the movies and so enamored and inspired
Hmm.
by this person, and then get the opportunity to photograph her. And this is the beginning of my career, the end of her career. In New York City, just rented it was a museum or something.
Museum. She's
Got
not
to
coming out of Tiffany's.
but a lovely, lovely person.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. And just again, the use of the stairs and the shading and the angles and even the steps, they're so unique. The size of those steps and the way they're curved at the edges and the sharp angles and the way the lighting is coming off the steps above her, the higher steps. Just really, it's a
One
very
light,
interesting.
I take a piece of cardboard, and in movie um, uh, cinematic technique, there's something
Yeah.
called a cookie, and a cookie
Right.
is
Oh, cookies. Yeah. They use them in television. Sure. Yep.
so a cookie is a piece of board where you've cut out shapes out of it and put light
Hmm.
through it. What it does is it breaks up the light a little bit. So I would create cookies out of a
Yeah.
cardboard box, real quick on a set. And so this is like a one light shot through a cookie, which is breaking up that light behind it,
Yep.
so it's
Yeah.
all flat. And I just shot it through the railing. And
And it looks natural. It looks like, light is coming through a window.
yeah,
Yeah.
I never wanted to look flashy. I never wanted to, I never wanted you to be aware of the
Of it, the creation of it.
yeah.
Exactly.
But
Yeah. No,
again, nothing. It's a nothing. It's a stairwell, but you can use
but
the
what you can
concept.
do, sometimes we all have to learn it as time goes on. Oftentimes, less is more on so many different levels. Less is more. There she is, and there's another.
It's another
Just
moment.
look
The
at the
next frame.
eyes,
The next frame.
just drawn right into her eyes. Yeah, that's really fantastic.
Ray Liotta passed this
Ray
year.
Liotta just passed, right? Yeah,
Um,
yeah.
I mean, I can't tell you how
Is
many.
this in the '90s? This one, you think?
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
I can't tell you how many times I've seen Goodfellas.
Oh, yeah. And he
But
started out on Another World, a soap opera on NBC. That's where he started his career. Yeah.
what
He
respect?
played Joey.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. I had such respect from his peers. I love that. I love
Yeah.
who's
Yeah.
low key and downplayed, but so talented at what they do and so respected by their peers. Again, it was important for me to work with somebody like that. I work with a lot of Jersey people.
Sure. Yeah. So
Fact,
it's an automatic.
no,
Yeah.
no, it's just really funny. It's so I was that's a whole other story, but I was inducted into the New Jersey Hall of Fame last year, which is interesting. But that initially came about where I went to a New Jersey Hall of Fame um, induction ceremony because I was invited, and there were so many people from New Jersey. Like there were like 10 being inducted in one day, and they were all major stars that I had photographed, which is why I went. There was Jack Nicholson and Susan Sarandon and Danny DeVito, and I think John Bon Jovi might have been that year as well. But in any case, I went back and I was like, yeah, there's a lot of people from New Jersey who were like famous, And I Googled it and found out like I had photographed like 50 or more people who were really well known. It goes on and on. Clint Black. I mean,
Black.
it's such an interesting array of people. And I had all these pictures. So I did an exhibition at the Newark Museum, and I called it "What Exit." In fact,
Yes. We say that on Long Island too. What exit?
What Exit? Wayne Lucas gave me that title. I got to give him credit for that. We were talking about the exhibition, and
Oh,
all
yeah.
the well-known people from New Jersey, and he was like, "Call it What Exit." And I was like, oh, "That's brilliant," and I did. But any case, and then I was inducted myself into the New Jersey Hall of Fame. But yeah, there's a ton of people who are well known, and for some reason, I got to photograph a lot of them.
And where did they hold the induction ceremony at a diner?
I was at the convention center in
At the
Aspen.
convention center.
Couldn't be better.
Do you miss being on the West Coast? Do you miss the good old 24-hour diners at all? Those kinds of things that
There's
are
a lot
on
of
the East Coast.
yeah. I mean, obviously, I'm an East Coast guy, and I grew up there, but you live here for the weather.
Late night runs to White Castle.
I did it when I was young. Yeah, we used to drive. We used to drive down to Philly for cheesesteaks in the middle of the night.
Oh yeah, that's right. Yeah, because you were right there. That's cool. Look at that one, huh?
Yeah, Jim Carrey
Jim
talks
Carrey.
analog. Here we are with Polaroid. In the old days with analog,
Yeah,
Polaroid
yeah.
test shot, and I sort of did this test shot, and he wanted to look at the Polaroid, and when he did, I saw this. I saw the shadow, and I was just like, "Oh, that's the picture." That's
Yeah.
so.
That is cool. That's a great shot. Again, all of these are so interesting and unique. Here's another. Wow. Yeah. Robert Mitchum.
Actually, this was early in my career, and again, I was a big film noir fan.
Mm-hmm.
Interest in cinematic lighting, etc. And so I used to watch a lot of his movies and knew him well as a character. And I was hired to go shoot him. And this day, even though this is just a headshot,
Mm-hmm.
what I got out of it was this recognition that I could make pictures, not take pictures, because this transcended just a straight headshot of somebody. It was about the lighting. It was about a moment. And again, it's not about where it is or what it is, but yet it still is a very striking, unique portrait that's very telling of his image and who he was.
That's right. Exactly.
But it changed things for me in my career. It made me realize I could take pictures differently or make pictures in a different way.
What a great moment with Sidney Poitier, huh?
Yeah, this was at his home, and I was sent there to work with him, and he was just such a lovely gentleman.
Mm-hmm.
Again, I'll repeat it. I've worked with him numerous times, but this was the first time. I think this is like 87.
Mm-hmm.
And he was like, "Yeah, well, what do you want me to wear?" And I'm like, I don't know. I'm a kid. 87.
Yeah.
Like, I'm just starting my career. And he's like, "No, come on up in my closet." And I'm in his bedroom, like going through his closet, and I'm making decisions on what he should wear. It was hysterical.
It looks quintessential Sidney Poitier. Yeah. What he's wearing. Yeah. Very much so.
Such an elegant man.
And did you get him to laugh? Was there something you said that?
Yeah, it's definitely something I did.
Yeah.
Again, I'm on, doing,
Right.
being the court jester and
Mm-hmm.
reaction from my subject.
Captured it, and as he's leaning back to the head's back. I mean, that's a really hearty, good, solid laugh that you've captured. One of my favorites. Yeah, him. I always Sidney Poitier. Jack Lemmon was another favorite of mine too. Classic people. There's another great shot of Sidney.
Older, you can tell he's older. This is huge.
Yes. Yeah. It's amazing. You have these relationships where they want you to continue to capture them through the years. I think that's fantastic. Shirley MacLaine.
Yeah, I'm all worked up. I'm waiting. She's in the makeup room. I'm
Yeah.
walking around, I'm pacing. I'm trying to figure something out, and I walk in and grab something in the makeup room, and I'm like, oh, hold that mirror like that. And
Yeah.
again, just
Perfect.
Light.
Yeah, he captured the whole thing in that one round screen of the mirror, which I think is fantastic. Another great performer. Look at this one. There's Jack Lemmon. When I saw this, I got excited. Yeah, Neil Simon, Walter Matthau, Jack Lemmon, The Odd Couple.
Yeah, they hadn't been photographed like that together, and that was so important. Walter Matthau passed just after this picture, and Jack Lemmon that much.
And Jack Lemmon, yeah. What were they like? What was it like being in the company of the three of them?
Hey, come on, it's greatness.
Mm-hmm.
Again, I always come off, like I'm super cool, but the truth of the matter is I'm dying inside. I'm so excited to hear people so enamored of, and we're so talented.
And their expressions are exactly them. You know what I mean?
I have no idea what I said, but something.
I mean, Jack Lemmon. I mean, he looks like he just filmed The Out of Towners with Sandy Dennis, George Kellerman, and Matthau, and of course they went on to Grumpy Old Men and all. But just, and Neil Simon, the brilliant mind of Neil Simon, like Norman Lear and others, to capture Carl Reiner, to be able to capture the essence of the craziness of living and of life is quite amazing. And to bring them in, who, to be able to interpret it all, just incredible. And here you are capturing all three. That's classic right there.
Was Walter Matthau in the original Broadway? Do you know? Of The Odd Couple?
Of the, that's a good question. I know the original movie, of course, and then of course Jack Klugman and Tony Randall did the TV series.
Because there's a history, of The Odd Couple, of both Broadway, TV, and the movie, as you say. But there were different people who played on Broadway. I know, but I'm trying to think of the original cast
for Broadway. Yeah. I mean, it's funny, the casting that they did for the film as well as for the TV series was, and usually when you have different people, it doesn't always really work. But yeah, I think it was absolutely fantastic, the casting for those. Yeah, that was really something. Felix and Oscar. Yeah, cool stuff. Let's see, we've got another one here. The folks are really enjoying this. We were showing, Chris Farley.
Wow, what energy this guy was like on set, just bouncing off the walls. So this particular picture was indicative for me of his personality and his energy level. This was for the movie Black Sheep, and just an outtake from that set.
The Odd Couple premiered on Broadway, at the Plymouth Theater first on March 10th, 1965, transferred to the Eugene O'Neill. And it was, the 65 production was Walter Matthau and Art Carney.
Yes.
And Art Carney. Norton. Oh, boy.
Oh, you said Norton.
Norton. That's it. Bang, zoom. I don't think you could say any of that today. One of these days, it's just funny. That's Jackie Gleason, the one and only Jackie Gleason. Cool stuff. Yeah, so Matthau and Carney. Wow. Another Raquel Welch.
At the presidential suite at the wall. No, at
Waldorf Astoria?
No, what's the, why am I blanking out? The corner of 57th and 5th Avenue.
Not the old Dakota?
No, 59th and 5th.
59th and 5th.
Why am I blanking out?
Is it still there?
Yeah.
59th and 5th.
The Waldorf is on the east side, right?
Right.
Why am I blanking out? The biggest hotels in the history of New York. Anyway.
Yeah.
It'll come to us.
It'll come to us.
Age issues. Raquel Welch. Just amazing again to be with somebody who has such sex appeal and
what was it like? Yeah, what was it like with her? It must have been extraordinary.
Again, this is later in her career, yet here she is being just as.
I mean, that's not the Plaza, is it?
The Plaza, sorry.
The Plaza, yes. You know what made me think of the Plaza was Walter Matthau, because he was in Plaza Suite, and so.
Do you have a microphone in your ear? Is your producer giving you Google information? Is your producer giving you Google information in your ear while we're talking?
No, it's me. I'm the producer. Host and producer, yeah.
But that's another example of I don't know what I'm doing. I'm trying to create a feeling for something, and it's just a hallway, in a hotel room, and it's all about lighting.
Plaza,
so I vignette the light in such a way, and time exposure with no depth of field, so that the focus is on her, and it sort of created a little bit of a
really emphasizes
but it's not that at all.
Yeah, emphasizes her hourglass shape as well. as she's not necessarily standing straight. She's sort of leaning a little bit, and that sort of softens and emphasizes it. It's really, yeah, it's almost like she's opened her front door and come on in, drinks are ready. It has that welcoming sort of you've arrived at her home feel to it.
But
Really
it was
nice.
just like a tacky hotel room.
At the plaza.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Billy Bob, he's a buddy of mine, and he's an amazing man. This was, I think he's wearing a wardrobe from a movie called Waking Up in Reno.
Mm.
And I would just step outside, I'm always stepping outside. I'm always
Yeah.
trying to get that extra picture,
Yeah.
that thing that transcends the purpose of why I'm there. I'll always take the subject out. Well, just one last one before you get in your car to leave, or just sit on
Right.
the curb outside the studio, or let's step outside and do something else if we were working inside all day.
Yeah. That's a
And
great idea.
the sunset light was happening, and he's just such a unique man. So talented, so smart.
And of course, Whitney Houston, another New Jersey native. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. This was in my hallway of my loft building in New York City, a stairwell.
And was this before the big breakout, or was she on the cusp, or was it already happening?
No, it was already happening.
It was already happening, yeah.
I mean, I photographed again. I must have said it 12 times already, but worked with her a number of times. And,
Yeah.
Over her career, worked with her when she was with Bobby Brown later on. Worked with her early on in her career. I've got pictures of her and her mother, really early, for Rolling Stone. That are really classic images, and this one somehow somewhere in the 90s, and so talented. So I'll never forget going to her house in New Jersey, and she had this like room full of awards. That was like, what? It's like so many. The recognition of how talented she was and loved.
And when you still hear the voice on the radio, it's just, as fresh as yesterday. Just an incredible powerhouse talent. They're coming out with some sort of virtual reality things now too. I forget what they call it, but I know they're using AR, where they're able to sort of recreate through images and video, sort of recreate the person on screen, or jumps out of the screen on stage as if they're really there again in a concert performance way, which is kind of interesting.
Years ago.
Yeah.
Now it's technology is a whole other dimension.
Why do you love doing what you do so much, Timothy? This is something that obviously is in the heart and soul, and comes with the experience, the education, like you say, the tenacity, the passion, and the fine tuning over time, and having a brilliant eye. But also, it's in your soul to do it and be able to capture these fabulous images and people and tell their story through the lens and the way that you do. What are some of those blessings and joys that remind you of the fact that you're so grateful about it all?
I do it for the experience. It's life experience, and I have this wonderful opportunity in front of me with people who I admire and who inspire and have touched the world. And I recognized early on that through my career, I had this opportunity to create and perpetuate, pop culture history. And it was never about it still isn't about any other reason except for this wonderful life experience that I have the opportunity to participate in. And I get to interact with people and get them to react to me in a way that allows me to capture some essence of who they are. And I don't know, it's a wonderful opportunity. I'm a very lucky man.
Absolutely. And very aware of the joys and blessings around you. And you, when you get a chance to sort of look back at it all, like you said, it all started when you used to look at the family albums and the boxes of photos and with your family, which I love doing too. We pull out the photos, the albums, the 8mm film, the video, all of that. all the way up to the digital now. And it's just fantastic. It's just, there's the history, there's the life, there's the lineage, there's all of it. And, when you do it, when you're looking back, we sort of did that in a brief form on this episode of the show, but you see just the extraordinary body of work. It must take your breath away sometimes too, when you look at it in its entirety.
Oh my God, I look at the breadth of my work and just go, how did I do that? How did I accomplish that much in the 30, 40 years I've been doing it? It's actually a long time, but I mean, it's an enormous archive, and I'm really proud of it. It's funny, in the beginning, I never used to think that like that I mattered or what I was doing mattered. It was like I was capturing these people and their image, and now I look at it as the enormity of it as in the period of time that I created it, and I recognize now that is in itself something that has importance, and I'm really so personally pleased to have accomplished it, and that I can play it forward, and it will carry on because of who my subjects were, into history. That's kind of cool. One other thing, you use the word history, and I don't know if I used it when I was talking about the snapshots early, but there was this sense of history that was really, really important to me early on in looking through those family photos. And I managed unconsciously to take that into a career, and that career is about collecting the same kind of history um, um, in Hollywood and in entertainment, and using some of the same elements compositionally and in other ways from those snapshots into my career. And it's really the same thing. I just took what was family and kind of created my own family with it. And I'll just add one other thing to that. My mom passed last year and she was 102. My dad passed just a couple of years earlier. And the last 10 years of their life, I was so very conscious of the exponential shift from in life that comes from a certain age to the end of life. And so I spent those 10 years photographing them a lot. And I've developed this body of work on my parents. And so it's sort of kind of come full circle. So it went from sort of this history of family history things into this history that I created in entertainment. And with those people, created my own little family, and then of images, and then kind of came back to
Full
my
circle.
family, and I did the same thing.
Very conscious of capturing life and history and memories, which I think is kindred spirits in that way. I tend to have always done that with video, doing interviews with relatives who are older and talking about what it was like growing up, and tell us about some of the other relatives that are no longer with us, and getting some of like those final conversations, on a couch with an aunt or whoever it is, and then being so blessed that I did that, because when they're gone, here is this wonderful, recording of them and the conversation. And because, you forget things, little nuggets of information, and it's, but I think you've probably always been conscious of sort of preserving and capturing it, like I always have. I mean, I used to run around with a little Panasonic cassette recorder and a microphone, and I would interview people. I was a reporter when I was 9 years old in the house, always feeling like I always got to record it, save it, take pictures, just not that it would always, eventually it's going to go away, but maybe I was conscious early as a kid that nothing is forever, whether I like that or not. So capture it, capture it, capture it, capture it. And then you can pull it out and look at it and like, there it all is again. And it's a beautiful thing.
Yeah. And that's the beauty of photography, for sure.
Yes.
And in my case, because the people that I photographed have touched history and have made such an impression, it does carry forward. It's why I'm spending my Saturday afternoon with you, is because telling these stories behind it, which will be gone when I'm gone. The pictures will exist because they represent those people, but the story behind those pictures that we've been talking about is a really unique thing, and it's really in here. It's my interaction with them that that's equally important to some degree to go along with those pictures.
Absolutely. Somebody that usually pops in during the show, if you've seen any of the episodes of our hundreds and hundreds of shows we've done, Mr. George Burns is with us. He usually pops in towards the latter part, and he just wanted to say hello. One of my aunts, speaking of family and aunts, collected dolls. I mean, some real serious dolls. She spent a lot of money on collection, and this eventually got passed down to me by my cousin Barbara. And so he pops in every once in a while with a cigar and his red pocket square, and he said, "You knocked it out of the park, kiddo." He absolutely loved the conversation, learned a lot that he didn't even know about. And he sends his love to you from him and from Gracie. And of course, remember he played God in the movie, so you got God on your side too. With love from George Burns, huh?
I have to tell you, Jim, it's a little creepy, but
Never got a chance to photograph him, did you? Or
No.
have any interaction with George?
no.
Because sometimes people say, "Oh, I got a George Burns story." I'm like, really? But it's cool. There he is. There he is, sending his best.
No, but I'm so happy that I did get to touch, and over the course of my career, some of the early people from, as we said, Audrey Hepburn and Robert Mitchum and Mickey Rooney and
Legends.
Alan
Yeah.
Ladd and Milton Berle and people like that.
Yeah.
To get those legends, and then also to be shooting such young stars and people of today as well.
It's incredible. It really is. Before we go, what have you not done that you still would love to do, whether it's involving travel or just anything else? Is there something still within the work itself or outside the work that you have to check off that you still want to do?
No,
You've done so much.
It's not about the work. It's about appreciating this rich life experience that I've had, and trying to sort of figure out the next stage of life and how I can, get back, and being so lucky and having such a wealth of unique experiences to now either be able to share those experiences and or do something different that has a little bit more depth to it.
Beautifully said, my friend. This was really an extraordinary conversation. We said that we would chat for about an hour or so, but I think if you take a guy from New York and a guy from New Jersey and you put them together, you got to put a pot of coffee on. We chatted for about 2 hours, and it did not feel like that. Most of the guests say it just flies by, which is exactly what I hope, because we like it to be not an interview, but have it be conversational. This was really a blessing for me, and I hope the show met whatever expectations you had. You enjoyed the time with me as much as I absolutely have with you, Timothy.
Yes, I have. Thank you, Jim. I really appreciate it. It was great. And again, I think just to cap that, I think what we did was we captured some stories here. You have it now for perpetuity, and it's important to have.
And of course, our wonderful friend Wayne Scott Lucas, we'd be remiss not to mention him. I know he's watching as well. He's a big fan and supporter of our show. So we send our love his way too. And he's the best. Continued blessings and joy and success. And let's definitely stay in touch. You're always welcome back. We'll keep the porch light on for you, my friend. And really a pleasure to have you here. And again, you're extraordinary at what you do. You love what you do. So just keep going out there doing it for the good of all of us to enjoy.
Thank you, Jim, and your audience. Thank you.
Have a great holiday season, Timothy. You take care, okay? Cheers.
Bye-bye.
The extraordinary, world-renowned celebrity photographer Timothy White joining us here as my special guest on this episode of the Jim Masters Show live entertainment lifestyle variety talk show series. One of the best in the business, one of the most sought after too. And you can see why. He's been doing it for decades, and his work is exemplary. And he's a cool guy. You know what I mean? Authentic, real, straight shooter. Brilliant behind the lens, but a straight shooter. And glad you guys enjoyed it. We appreciate all the comments and all the interactivity and all the fabulous words that you guys have been saying. And we really appreciate him joining us here and sharing just a little bit, of his world with all of us here on the show. If this is your first time watching our entertainment lifestyle variety talk show series where we're bringing back the lost art of conversation, and I didn't make up that phrase. I think it was a guest that said, you know what you're doing? You're bringing back the lost art of conversation. And we sort of just run with that now. Levity, that just sort of came out of nowhere too, with light, love, and levity. And these things that sort of developed. It's just really fantastic that you guys, are a part of all of this, watching from around the world. We thank again our very special guest, truly one of the world's most sought after and celebrated and extraordinary celebrity photographers, just a phenomenal American photographer, not just celebrity, but he's known for the celebrity, but he's just incredible. And featured right here on the Jim Masters Show. If this is your first time, don't forget to, or if you've been watching all the episodes since day one, give this episode a like. Leave a comment on the YouTube channel, which is Jim Masters TV. Subscribe to the YouTube channel as well. We would absolutely love that. That means a lot to us. All you have to do is hit that button there on the YouTube channel. And when you do, it doesn't cost anything. Make sure that you also click the notification bell. There's a little notification bell there, a little bell icon. So that way there, you'll get alerts about all the episodes of our extraordinary ongoing series and all the rest. This is your host, Jim Masters, thanking you and you and you and everybody watching from all around the world. Thanks for the passion, the enthusiasm. The series continues to grow. It's unique. It's special the way we do it. We're interactive. You guys chatting in the JMS Levity chat room. We love that. We appreciate all the enthusiasm there. Don't forget, you can share the links on your social media to all of the episodes directly from our YouTube channel, Jim Masters TV. And you can find me on all the social media platforms, Twitter, Instagram, Facebook at Jim Masters TV as well. So, as I said, we don't say goodbye around here. We just say see you later and take care and be well. We will catch you on the next one. And don't forget, you can also archive or see those beautiful archives, hundreds of episodes with guests from Broadway, Hollywood, television, film, music, stage, culinary arts, sports, comedy, inspiration, everything in between. It's all about life. Kind of like the traditional talk shows, Carson, Kevin, and the others. Guests came from every background, and you learn something. We have laughs, and we're entertained, and it's interactive. Again, we love you all. Thanks for being with us on this episode. We'll see you on the next one right here on the Jim Masters Show live series. Take care and be well. Cheers.